all consider school to be a great fountain of knowledge, but what if you eventually learn that some of the things your teachers taught you actually don't hold water?
3 plus 3? Really?
Has your whole life actually been a lie? While it's true that the Earth is round... Wait, what? Huh. Oh well, there are other generally accepted facts that prove to be false upon closer inspection. Just like these 10 worst lies we were taught in school. What's up, Factatics? This is Discovery Amuse, serving up your daily dose of the most outrageous, outlandish, and out-of-this-world fun facts. Blame it on Orientalism that we still continue to believe the stereotype that is our #1 pick. Stick around to find out what it is. Now, let's get debunking. Number 10, the Great Pyramids. Countless Hollywood movies coupled with lazy research have made us believe that the Great Pyramids of Egypt were built by slaves who worked tirelessly under the sun's heat and suffered the whips of ruthless overseers. However, Egyptologists claim that this is a bit far from the truth. According to Egypt's chief archaeologist, Dr. Zahi Hawass, it wasn't the Israelite slaves who built the pyramids. The builders were Egyptians who came from poor families in the northern and southern regions. Contrary to popular belief, they were in fact respected and honored for their work. Those who died during the construction were buried honorably in tombs near the sacred pyramids of pharaohs.
One of the workmen had a cancer in his skull, and they did a brain surgery for him. And he lived for 2 years after the surgery. And can be a good proof to the public that the builder of the pyramids were not slaves.
Keep watching, because our #1 pick will make you rethink what you know about ancient beauty standards. Number 9, the Great Wall of China. Who hasn't dreamt of setting foot on one of the greatest and most popular wonders of the world that is the Great Wall of China? Boasting a rich history worth over 2,000 years and stretching more than 3,000 miles across several provinces, the Great Wall is indeed an impressive architectural feat. And I bet you clearly remember your history teacher saying that the Great Wall is the only man-made structure that can be seen from outer space. Sorry to burst your bubble, but it's all a space-based myth. Even Chinese astronauts argue that the Great Wall being visible from the ISS is a questionable claim at best. While photos taken by NASA astronaut Leroy Chiao seem to show small sections of the wall, Chiao himself said he didn't see the wall from the ISS per se. NASA's chief scientist, Dr. Kamlesh Lula, doubles down on debunking the myth, saying that the Great Wall is hard to photograph from space because the material used to build it is basically the same color as the area surrounding the structure. So yeah, squint all you want, but all you're gonna see is a long, fairly visible crooked line. Number 8, Isaac Newton's apple. It's no secret that Sir Isaac Newton is one smart apple. He's the great mind behind the laws of motion and universal gravitation, and is one of the most influential scientists of all time. He's so brilliant that he had an aha moment when an apple fell on his head, right? Well, at least that's how the story goes, but in reality, this version of the story fell too far from the actual truth.
What are you talking about?
While Newton did see an apple fall from a tree, there's no evidence that it landed directly on his head. Also, it actually took him around 2 years to formulate the theory, although the apple incident did make him wonder why apples fall straight to the ground instead of sideways. It is believed that Newton's niece, Catherine Barton, told the story to French writer Voltaire before it became public knowledge, and the details probably got twisted along the way because, you know, writers have a penchant for romanticizing stuff. Number 7, Thomas Edison's light bulb. The phonograph, the motion picture camera, and the automatic telegraph are just some of Thomas Edison's greatest inventions. But historians argue that it's a little unfair to solely credit Edison for the invention of the light bulb. Famed historian and writer Ernest Freeberg claims that at the time, Edison had about half a dozen competitors racing to create a viable lighting system, and Edison looked to his rivals in designing his vacuum bulb.
Well, first of all, Edison entered very late into the search for a working incandescent bulb. And there were 5 or 6 other rival inventors who held patents ahead of Edison, and he learned a lot from the mistakes and successes of his rivals, and many suggested he stole a lot of their ideas.
What gave Edison an edge over his rivals was that he had an entire research and development team behind him. While the incandescent bulb is the product of a few brilliant minds, Edison could be credited for inventing and marketing the first long-lasting bulb that was practical for widespread use. So, get your facts straight, people!
And the truth shall set you free!
Number 6. Alexander Graham Bell's telephone.
Are you worth $10 million? Hell no.
If you're a fan of Shark Tank, then you know very well how important a patent is. If you don't have one, there's a great chance that someone could claim your design or concept as theirs, just like what happened to the original inventor of the telephone, which, by the way, isn't Alexander Graham Bell.
So hello from the other side.
Bell didn't necessarily invent the telephone, but he was awarded the first successful patent. Same difference? Not really. In 2002, the U.S. Congress officially recognized the contributions of Italian immigrant Antonio Meucci in the invention of the telephone, having designed the first talking telegraph in 1849, 27 years before Bell was awarded the patent.
I'm telling you, whether it was you or me or Robert or one of us, he was going to do that to somebody.
Number 5. Einstein flunked math. The great Albert Einstein must have been rolling over in his grave every time a student makes this excuse to their parents whenever they fail their math exam. It's believed that when Einstein flunked the entrance exam when he entered a college in Zurich, that's when the nasty rumor started. But the real score was that Einstein didn't fail the math part, although he did bomb the zoology, language, and botany sections of the said test. Besides, how on earth would he suck at mathematics when he already mastered differential and integral calculus by the age of 15? Long before he formulated his theory of relativity, Einstein was quite the child prodigy and excelled in algebra and physics. He also had a knack for playing the violin and did quite well in Latin and Greek. But one thing Monsieur Einstein was not that good at was French.
Faster. Je
m'appelle.
Je m'appelle.
Me poo-poo.
At least that's one thing we have in common. Number 4. Columbus and the Round Earth. The year was 1492 when Christopher Columbus set sail from Europe to Asia, moving westward instead of east. And when he did reach Asia, he therefore proved to the Spanish naysayers that the Earth is round and not flat. The only thing was, there wasn't really anything to prove in the first place, because as early as 600 BC, philosophers and mathematicians had already believed that the Earth was round. Even Columbus knew this all along, so who's to blame for the long-standing legend of Columbus being the first true round-earther? A master storyteller named Washington Irving. The famous author who penned Rip Van Winkle and Sleepy Hollow added fictional flourishes when he wrote Columbus's biography in 1828, including the tiny detail about Spanish geographers refusing to believe the Earth was not flat, so Columbus set out to prove them wrong. The book became a bestseller, and that's how the myth was eventually taken by people to be Bible truth. Number 3. The human brain.
It is estimated most human beings only use 10% of their brain's capacity.
Are you one of those people who totally ate up Morgan Freeman's speech in the 2014 movie Lucy? Perhaps thinking you remember your old science teacher once claiming the same thing? Well then, it's high time for you to graduate from the Hollywood School of Pseudoscience. Although you may not be using all your neurons in your brain at any given moment, it doesn't mean that some of them are not active at all.
Any given area of the brain has multiple connections with many other parts of the brain that basically appears that the whole brain is involved. Maybe not 100% of that, but definitely a lot more than 10 or 15%.
The fact that the brain uses around 20% of our body's energy, even though it's only 3% of our body weight, should say something about the great amount of activity that's going on inside our skulls.
Did you guys pick up on that?
Sure did. Something's wrong.
Should we ask her? Let's probe, but keep it subtle so she doesn't notice.
Number 2, the 5 senses. Ask any average student how many senses they have and they'll most likely answer 5. But ask modern scientists and they'll probably tell you that it's actually between 22 and 33. That's because the faculties of our sight, touch, taste, hearing, and smell are just way more complicated than what we initially thought. If you're wondering how we're able to walk around without watching our feet or type without looking at the keyboard, that's because of our proprioception. There's also thermoception that tells us whether an environment is too warm or too cold. On the other hand, our equilibrioception helps us keep our balance. And there's so much more! Sorry, Aristotle! Before we go to our number 1 pick, do us a solid and make sure to smash the subscribe button and hit the notification bell. Don't forget to choose all so you won't miss out on any of our latest life-changing, boredom-busting content. And of course, be sure to turn on notifications in your app's settings. Number 1, Chinese foot binding. Have you been taught about the history behind the Chinese tradition of foot binding? It's long believed that altering the size and shape of a woman's feet was a symbol of refinement and social status. The smaller toes are bound flat against the sole, and the arch is bent double to achieve 3-inch feet known as golden lotus. The smaller the feet, the more attractive the woman, and the greater her chances of finding a groom. However, the research book titled Bound Feet, Young Hands reveals more about this age-old tradition. After interviewing more than 1,800 Chinese women, authors Lauren Bosson and Hill Gates found out that foot binding was widely practiced in peasant families, so the girls would stay put into doing handiwork for products that their families are selling. Thankfully, the torturous tradition finally ended in 1949 after persisting for a millennium. So, which of these myths did you believe to be true until today? Tell us about it in the comments section below. Take home any of our exclusive gear by browsing our merch shelf or clicking the link in the video description. And while you're at it, take our quiz to find out how you can earn extra cash online doing what you do best. Awesome, right? And because we like messing with your brain, here's something that will make you do a double take. Double take. Check out our ranking of the 10 youthful people who are actually older than you. Till then, stay inquisitive, Factnatics, and see you in the next video.